Okay, let's learn about persuasion. So we're learning about persuasion. First, the definition of a persuasion, what it does, it tries to make the reader think. So it tries to make the reader think, do or buy something. So it tries to influence the reader. It tries to persuade the reader. So whatever it is, whether it makes you try to think, it might try to do, or it might try to influence you to buy something. So the purpose is to persuade. So the purpose is to persuade. And the text plan, the plan for the text is, you've got to identify the main points of the text. So you've got to identify what the main points of the text are. And this could be a statement, so it could be a statement. It could also be a question to grab that reader's attention. So it could be a question that grabs the reader's attention. Now, there should be supporting points. There should be supporting points. And you've got to organize your reasons. You've got to organize your reasons into a paragraph for each point with supporting evidence. So for each point you make, you've got to give evidence. Now, explain how people are being affected by the situation. So you should always explain how the situation, the circumstance is affecting the situation. So the next is a summary of the key points. So you've got to have a summary of the key points. So repeat the key points to reinforce them. So to reinforce them, you've got to repeat the key points. So when you're when you're summarizing, you've got to repeat the key points to reinforce them, to get the point across. To get the point across, you've got to summarize the key points. And there should be a call to action. What is a call to action? Well, you should ask the reader to take some action. For example, to do something, to buy something, to think something, or to go somewhere. So the reader who's reading it, you're trying to persuade them, you're trying to influence them to do something, to either buy it, to think something, or to go somewhere, Now, you've got to remember that typically the style is passive voice. So if you don't want to say where you are getting your evidence from, it is thought, it is believed, studies have shown. So what you've got to do is, passive voice in this case means that you've got to use words like, in your opening sentences, like, it is thought, it is believed, studies have shown. So these are typical passive voice. So that's, it is believed, it is thought, studies have shown. Now, the language features. What are the language features for this type of writing? Well, the language features for this type of writing are normally they're in the present tense, but you are able to move into the past tense, or you can also move into the future tense, depending on the point that you're making. So you can normally it's in the present tense, but you can move into the past or future depending on the point you're trying to make. Now, the support the reasons with evidence. You've got to support the reasons with evidence. So whatever point you make, you've got to support it with evidence. This could be numbers, so you could say 20% of people, or 90% of people, or 99% of people, or I wouldn't use 20% by the way. You've got to persuade them, so you've got to use strong statistics, and you should use facts or quotes. You could say like so-and-so person said, and you use a quotation. So use a quotation. It's like a testimonial. A testimonial is when somebody who's already used the product gives an endorsement. They say, okay, this is what we think, we've used this, and this is what we think. So you've got to appeal to your readers. So the reader it should appeal to them, it should attract them, it should engage them, it should pull them in, and it should appeal to your reader's emotions. So the feelings it should affect by using emotive language. Emotive language, so language that is going to persuade them. Okay, to do with emotions, Make them think about what you are saying. So you've got to say, okay, it's got to arouse emotions in a way that will make them think about how and what you are saying, and it should affect them. Try to make them feel something with words. So, like if it says, for example, it all costs money, and who pays for it? You do. So include lots of detail in order to explain your ideas. So you should explain have a lot of detail about the product or the service, so that it persuades them. So you should use present tense, but you can move from past to future. You should have evidence, and the evidence should be either the statistics or what people say about the product, or some facts about the product. You should use emotive language, and you should use lots of detail in order to explain your ideas clearly. So you're trying to persuade. The purpose is to persuade. Now, so it's important that you are aware of the passive voice. Now, what I would say is that you should be able to, you should have a list in your mind of all the passive verb phrases. So what I would say is, I would first try to list all the possible passive phrases before doing any task. So you've got to use at least a few of these. You've got to use a few of these so that you improve your mark. So if you just simply write it without the passive verbs, then you don't use the language features, then your mark will be affected. Now, another tip is that persuasive texts can be in any form. So it can be in any form. And what do I mean by any form? Well, it can be in letters. It can be in posters. So it could be in letters or posters. It can be in leaflets. So that's leaflets. It can be in newspaper and magazine articles. So it can be in newspaper and magazine articles. It can be in adverts. So it can be in adverts. Now, remember that you need to think about the purpose. In your mind, when you're writing, you've got to think about the purpose. Why are you writing this? Who is the audience? And you've got to pretend that you're writing to them. You've got to imagine, you've got to be in front of you whilst you're writing, and you've got to clear this. Now, let's look at an example. Now, an example text could be, Dear Mr. Jones, I am writing to complain about the quality of school dinners on offer recently at St. Starvin's Primary School. There have been no fresh fruit or vegetables offered for the last 2 weeks. Also, the chips and nuggets are always very greasy and unappetizing. The standard of desserts is also poor. We have prunes and semolina every day for a month. So first, the writer uses a key feature of a letter, which is Dear Mr. Jones. And then it starts with, I am writing to complain. So they give the reason why they're writing immediately in the first 5 words. About the quality of school dinners. And they tell you what they're complaining about the quality of school dinners on offer and where. So at the school. So they tell you about the first paragraph tells you the reason for writing, the complaint. It tells you about the school dinners and the school. There have been no fresh fruit or vegetables offered for the past 2 weeks. So they're complaining about what they haven't had. I mean, it's also, the chips and nuggets are always very greasy and unappetizing. There have been no fresh fruit or vegetables offered for the last 2 weeks, is what we've just mentioned. And we've also mentioned that all the chips and nuggets are always very greasy and unappetizing. So you've said some facts, you've mentioned some things that are the problem. So the standard of desserts is also poor, so that's an opinion. We have had prunes and semolina every day for a month. Now that's covered with facts. So that's facts in the second paragraph. As a result of this, a number of Year 6 pupils have refused to eat their lunch and have been tired and unable to concentrate in the afternoons. So what's happening there is they've given some evidence about what some Year 6 children are doing. They're actually not. So they've said a number of, they've not given a particular number, but they've said a number of. It has been proven that 5 portions of fresh fruit and vegetables should be eaten every day to keep people healthy, particularly children. So what they're doing now is they're giving the evidence to say some facts which persuades the reader to say these are the facts. You know, if you eat 5 vegetables, then it's going to keep you healthy. And it obviously, it basically goes against the greasy chips. Studies have also shown that protein eaten at lunchtime has the effect of boosting brain power for the rest of the day. So instead of saying it's a definite, they say studies have also shown. So you're going to get a mark for that. You're going to get a mark for that. You're going to get a mark for studies have also shown. Our national tests begin in May. So that's the future. So that's the future. And many of us are very concerned that our results will suffer as a result of this poor diet. So they're saying, we're giving a reason why their grades could and the levels could suffer as a result because of the poor food. So we're talking into the future, what could happen. So, although a small number of pupils enjoy your fried food, so there are people who enjoy it, yeah, we're admitting, the majority of us are keen to maintain a balanced diet and lead a healthy lifestyle. So there might be those other people who enjoy what they're eating, but the majority don't. And they want to maintain a good lifestyle. And so these are points that recurring points that are being made to persuade the reader. Could you please provide us with suggestions for alternative menus? So that's a question, and it's getting the reader to suggest, respond to the letter. A group of us would be happy to help with this as we have many ideas ourselves. So they're suggesting something as well. So they want the teacher to suggest, and also they also want to suggest themselves. I look forward to hearing from you soon. So a practice question could be that your class has been told, that there won't be any school trips for them. So there won't be any school trips for them this year due to the lack of funds, so they don't have enough money. Write a letter to the school governors to persuade them, so you governors of the school governors, to hold more fundraising events. So you're saying, okay, we don't have the money, but you're persuading them to raise some more money. So you've got to have the language features. You've got to, if it's a letter, then you've got to have dear so and so or dear governors, and you've got to have like I am writing to and you've got to suggest ideas. You've got to suggest ideas in your letter as well, making sure you how you talk in the correct tense, and you support it with evidence, and you use emotive language, the language which is going to arouse emotions, and you've got to get all these features in. Otherwise, if you simply just write it and you don't write the features, and you don't, and the examiner isn't able to mark those features, then you're not going to get the top marks. Your top marks are going to come if you use the features. So look back at the letter that I've just read. Go back to the video, listen to it carefully, pick out some tips, and listen to the language features that were mentioned. Think about the text plan, like identifying the main points, supporting points, what the summary points should be. So make sure when you identify the main points, you identify them. There could be statements or a question that grabs attention. The supporting points, make sure you organize the reasons into paragraphs. They're clearly in the paragraphs. You summarize the key points. You have the reader. So you ask the reader to take some action. So in the letter it said, could you please provide us with suggestions, alternative menu? So what you're doing is you're asking them to take some action. So all these features should be there. So as well as the language features, the text plan should be followed as well.